How transformative will this be or not for the whole landscape?
Oh, it's very transformative. If you think about how cable television and broadcast has slowly evolved to streaming, we're going to see a big change over the next several years as more and more companies migrate their content to streaming, and you start to evolve consumers from cable TV over to streaming.
But aren't we going to reach saturation where you're like, I don't want to pay $15 for Netflix. I don't want to pay $5 here, $4 there. Like, who charges the most? Who wins and loses with that?
So the consumer is looking at it today and they're saying, look, I'm paying for cable pay TV. I'm going to evolve into streaming. When you actually cut the cord, and 4 million people cut the cord in the last 24 months, as more and more people cut the cord, they've got more of their cash flow to say, hey, I'm going to subscribe to more streaming channels. And streaming is much more flexible, right? It's what Netflix has always been doing, giving the consumer what they want when they want it, and that's the power of streaming.
Yeah, this sounds exciting for like the rise of the consumer as far as no longer being a slave to the TV schedule. But what do you think it means for the socialization? I think about this book by Robert Putnam called Why We Bowl Alone. And the idea that we've lost a lot of socialization, public socialization, that people got the socialization watching TV, and it's very individual, and we lose the social trust that builds civic society. And do you think that this streaming just takes it the next step further?
Meaning that, like, you can't connect on like what you're watching and talk about it because we're all doing different things?
Well, actually, as Alex and I have talked about in the past, that's the opportunity, right? To create this dialogue where you're watching a lot of shows, they're streaming, it's when you want it, how you want it. It's something to talk about. And you can talk about it by the water cooler at work, you can talk about it at a bar with friends. It's really powerful. Streaming is something that is so unique because, again, it's anytime you want it, anywhere you want it.
What about content spend? Where are we in that going forward? Because in some ways, like, Disney can just repurpose a lot of their stuff.
They can, but in order for them to have sustainability, they're going to need to develop and create a lot of original content. If you think of Netflix today, right? Netflix has 47,000 or so episodes on Netflix. Disney Plus is launching. The expectation is that next year they'll have about 7,500. So if you think about scale, the scale of Netflix is significant. So Disney Plus has a lot of work to do in terms of original programming. But Disney, as you point out, Alex, they've got a lot of high-rated content. So the question is it quality, is it quantity that's going to win out here?
So are we going to bring back the Marvel superheroes?
Yeah.
Yes, you bet. You bet.
Yeah, that's why you're going to get it. Clearly, Mark is not going to be at Disney Plus. Clearly, I already bought it. But to that point, the competition of sort of your current library versus making new stuff versus taking the Marvel universe and making new episodes for that. Like, they're not apples to apples if you're going to measure like a Netflix to a Disney, for example.
Well, look, Netflix has been quite bold, taking on a lot of new original programming, spending $15 billion in 2019 on content. Disney Plus, obviously, they are going to innovate and do new things, but we think at the end of the day, Netflix brings you everything, right? They have a lot of different content for every single different type of person, whereas Disney Plus tends to be focused on children. Having said that, as you point out, Marvel, Disney has invested in a lot of new content over the years that is focused on a wider consumer.